Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Welcome back everyone to Fighting on Film, and today it's our Christmas special, so Merry Christmas one and all. We're joined as every week by Matt.
Hi guys.
And today we have a special guest, WW2TV's Paul Woodadge.
Hello, excited to
Welcome,
be here.
Paul.
Welcome. Yeah, we're delighted to have him on. We've chosen a cult classic for this Christmas, and it's 1978's The Wild Geese. We think it's an absolute belter.
So, what's your earliest memory of the Wild Geese? Because I was thinking about this the other day. Like Robbie asked me, like, how many times have you seen it? And I said, I must have seen it like at least a dozen times. It must be about 10 years ago the first time I saw it. And I think I may have actually seen Wild Geese 2 first.
Oh dear.
Poor man.
Well, for me, I've seen it 50, 60 times. And in my situation, it's because I'm from Colchester, Army Town. So it was an absolute classic film for people to talk about, not just the squaddies, but also students. And it seemed to be on every Friday night when you came back from the pub. And my earliest memory of Wild Geese is actually people saying the only acceptable time for a man to cry is when Rafer gets killed at the end of the movie. That and when you get knocked out in the semi-finals by the Germans. That they're the only two times it is okay for a man to cry. And that was kind of a standard buzz thing. Spoiler alert, by the way, that went round, in culture. So I would have been 10, 11 when I first saw it, which would have been probably about a year or two after it came out. So it would have hit, it was Cinema 78, so it would have been about, so actually it would have been older than that, it would have been about 12, so probably about 1980. So that would have been, at my age, a big benchmark movie release. When that was first shown on TV, it would have been a big thing with lots of, like when the Bond films came out. So it would have been a lot of interest in it. And so, yeah, that would have been the first time. So I've been watching it for, nigh on 40 years.
It was free with the Daily Mail on Sunday, and my mum and dad picked it up. We all watched it together, and I'd never seen it. And my dad was going, "Oh, this movie's great, Robbie, you'll love it." And I think I must be about 10 years old, 11 years old. And I just sat there engrossed. I thought it was the best thing ever.
Robbie's going to love this film full of old fellas shooting people and swearing and just having a cracking time in Africa.
My dad knew me too well, I think. The amount of weapons in it and the amount of action and all that good stuff, with some of the greatest British stars of the time. It's an absolute treat to watch, isn't it, really?
Yep.
I was trying to pinpoint what makes it such a good film, though. And it's hard to do, I think, really, because there's a number of factors. You've got the great cast. You've got the amazing array of weapons on show.
Yeah.
The action sequences are really quite good. The plot's not bad either. I mean, the plots are great. It's like a double cross. There's some politics to it. There's a bit of Stuart Granger being a dodgy bastard. It's just, but it's difficult to nail down like one element of the film that makes it, this cult classic.
To me, it's because it's self-aware. To me, it's because it knows it is straddling a line between kind of where eagles their silliness and yet also making a kind of a semi-serious statement about politics in Africa. It knows where it is. If you think of something like the Monuments Men, for example, I know it's a completely different genre, but to me, that couldn't make up its mind whether it was a comedy or serious. It was kind of, it didn't sit in an area properly. The Wild Geese knows exactly what it is. It's action, it's got a good cast, and it's straddling that line between silliness and realism. I think it's, self-aware would be my answer.
And it has that whole sort of like political angle where it's trying to make a statement with that, the speeches by Limbani, where he's talking to Kruger, and you got the despicable Stuart Granger, who has a cracking set of glasses. I think.
Well, there's some bad glasses on the Richard Harris's.
Harris is wearing milk bottle tops, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a bit unashamedly like a really high budget British B movie. It doesn't try and ham in any romantic subplots. It's almost all A plot. There's no B or C plot here. It's right. We're going to go and snatch Limbani. Let's go.
Well, you also turn it off as soon as the plane takes off, don't you?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah. Because for me, that's how it should end. I want to like sort of dream that they all get back and it's all good,
Well, the book does end there.
Oh.
Didn't know that. I've not actually read the book.
The book actually ends, with them landing in, and I forget whether it is Rhodesia or South Africa, but they land at an airfield and that's it, it's cut. There's no resolution, there's no, and it's different characters survive as well. It's because there are 5 officers in the book, of only whom 4 get portrayed in the film.
Right.
And the Roger Moore, Sean Finn is an amalgamation of 2. So the book does end differently without that resolution.
See, I would prefer that. Just as a narrative structure, I would much prefer not.
I don't know. I quite like the fact that they had this cathartic like final showdown with Granger, who's done them over so badly, got all these men killed, and he and eventually gets shot in the stomach by a little Beretta. I think it has a nice sort of like cyclical resolution as well. Like it begins in London, it ends in London. It starts with the murder, ends with the murder. There we go.
Although it is silly in the sense that Stuart Granger does say to Burton, I've got a hit on you in every country. And yet he's able to go down to a public school, go see Emile without any protection and stuff. And you think he's going to get knocked off very quickly, isn't he? I mean,
Emile just comes with a Colt 45 out of his school blazer and just does in Burton. That's for Dad, that is.
Which would actually redeem the Emile character, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
In a weird way.
He'd gun down Burton. So let's just talk about the cast for a little bit before we delve into the action a little bit more. You've got Richard Burton as Faulkner. He's the man in charge. Richard Harris as Rafer, sort of Faulkner's right-hand man. Roger Moore as Sean Finn, who I think is just being James Bond the whole film, pretty much. I mean, why wouldn't you? He was Bond at the time. Whitty, their medic, played by Kenneth Griffith. And then you've got Jack Watson from The Hill, who plays Sandy, the tough as nails CSM, and then just loads of little sort of character actors. But one we want to pay homage to today is Ian Newell, who unfortunately passed away a few days ago.
But with the cast, you've also got to address the fact that apart from Burton, the others were in Richard Harris's case, he was third choice. So Burt Lancaster is there to be first. He's going to play Rafer because Rafer is much older in the book. Rafer is like in his 60s. He's living in a kind of downbeat place in Britain. There isn't Emile, but Emile is in his 20s.
Right.
And Burt Lancaster gets cast first. And then Burt Lancaster won't take second billing to Richard Burton. So he drops out. Robert Mitchum comes in. And Roger Moore, I believe in his autobiography, which I have, says that he actually screen tested, I think, with Robert Mitchum. And then for some reason that fell out. And then Richard Harris came in as a last minute replacement.
I think Harris is perfect for that, though.
That's it. Yeah, the irony is he's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I can't imagine Robert Mitchum in that role at all.
I'm taking you skiing, kid.
Can you imagine him like being like, yeah, Emile, we're going to go skiing.
I'm taking you skiing.
It just that doesn't play with me.
No. And Stephen Boyd was going to be Sandy.
Okay.
And he died or was ill, one of the two. And Jack Watson came in because Jack Watson had worked for Ewan Lloyd, the producer on. I think Ewan Lloyd was one of the producers on the Devil's Brigade or something.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And Jack Watson came in for that, and Jack Watson was older than the Sergeant Major was. So there was some casting. I'm being sort of geek there, but
this is why you're on.
The book is really good. And actually, if you read the book, Burt Lancaster fits the Janders character of the book perfectly. He doesn't fit it because you've seen the movie where Richard Harris is given a different role in the sense that they adapt the role to fit to Richard Harris's age group, and Emile becomes younger and he becomes kind of a middle-class English guy. As opposed to because Rafer Jan as written in the book, I think is Afrikaans.
That would make sense from the name. There's not many Irish chaps that call Rafer Janders, are there? Really?
Sean Finn, by the way, just to finish off, who's played by Roger Moore, isn't a friend of Faulkner's in the book. There's another officer called Jeremy Chandos, who is a friend of Faulkner's. They've been in the Congo together, and Sean Finn's Roger Moore becomes the amalgamation of those two characters. And it's actually, and Faulkner dies beside Sandy in the village in the book. And it is Chandos and Sean Finn. Sean Finn still pilots the aircraft back, and he's just a pilot. He is literally just a pilot. And then Chandos is the other officer. So there's 5 officers. Everything else is the same. Tosh is the same. The Scottish Sergeant Ronald Fraser's that the same role is there, but they knock out one officer for whatever reason. Budget, possibly, because paying for Hardy Kruger or Deadly Luger, as Roger Moore refers to him in his autobiography. I had to work with Deadly Luger. Which is a great nickname.
It was a shame
Hardy
working
Kruger.
for Deadly Luger. But I think it works so well, the casting, because they're all, Burton and Harris are serious actors. Burton was a Shakespearean thespian. So to see him do this B-movie plot, I think it adds so much gravitas. Burton chooses to act it really straight-laced. So does Harris. Moore's just having fun, I think. And it all just comes across really well.
Yeah, and they do play off one another quite well as well.
You can tell they're all drinking buddies,
especially Burton and Harris. Like, they play off each other really well.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
Yeah.
You feel like there is a prior relationship and they've known each other for years.
I think we're referring to it as a B movie, which I think is perfectly fair. But you have to go back to that time when Ewan Lloyd bought the book rights from Daniel Carney. That book had been an international bestseller. They spent a lot of money for the rights for the book. And the only reason I would argue it became a B movie is it didn't do well in America. And it was to do with the fact it only got shown in about 10 theaters as opposed to because of some licensing deal. I don't think it was intended to be a B movie. I mean, it was certainly that cast that you talked about, Robbie, was an exceptional cast.
Oh, God, yeah. It's crazy cast.
And the budget's there, though. It's not like they skimped on the budget.
No.
The bridge scene where the aircraft strafes the convoy, we get at least 10 minutes of Bedford truck on fire.
Bedford RLs.
RL, there we go.
They're
Not
already
QL.
RLs there. If it'd been QLs, it'd be RLs.
It wasn't a Q. I was like, Robbie, is that a Bedford QL? I was like, no. He's disappointed. I was like, oh, God. That's a big cast. There's 4 lead actors. They're all big names. Yeah, I suppose it's a little unfair to call it a B movie when at the time it was made as probably like,
the big action blockbuster.
Yeah, a blockbuster expected to do well.
I mean, just how much would Roger Moore have cost?
Exactly, at the height of his Bond peak.
How much would it cost now to get Daniel Craig to appear in your movie in the not top role? I mean, if that's what we're talking about, how much would it have cost to have got Sean Connery? And so, Richard Burton wouldn't have come cheap, although he had. No. In fact, his last actual box office success was Where Eagles Dare. Made lots of movies. In '74, he famously made The Klansman with Lee Marvin, where he was so drunk they had to put most of his scenes sitting down because he couldn't stand up. He was better by the time of Wild Geese. So, and Richard Harris was on the wagon as well for that. But even so, they would have cost a lot of money. Hardy Kruger was doing well. He'd have cost a lot of money. They threw a lot of money at it.
Made quite a bit of money as well. I think it made at least over 4 million, I think. So it did
make
really
money. Well internationally. Did well in Japan. Did well in Africa. I mean, and famous, and we mustn't neglect, of course, because we're British centric, that Winston Schoner and John Carney were incredibly successful South African actors. Had to be really convinced to do it because they were worried about racial stereotyping and negativity and English people making a movie about South Africa. But they were and are. I mean, John Carney's still with us. Winston died 2 or 3 years ago. Were incredibly well-regarded actors. I mean, we wouldn't have known them as a British audience back then, but in South Africa, they were Laurence. It was like they're getting a Laurence Olivier and John Gielgud. They were Shakespearean on their, highly regarded. They'd had a stage show that had won all sorts of Tonys and awards and stuff for years. So we mustn't disregard them because they're not known to our audience, but they were huge.
Let's not forget Stuart Granger as well.
Yeah,
he's not a no-name. That's a great little part for him to play. He plays that really well, I think.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I found out yesterday, Patrick Allen, who plays Rushton, the military advisor, he narrated Tugs, and I loved that when I was little. So I was like, oh my God. It's just like, it's such a nice little touch.
For the international audience, Robbie, what's Tugs?
It's like Thomas the Tank Engine, but at sea. That's the best way to
so they're basically talking tugboats, aren't they?
Yeah. But he was the narrator, and I went mad when I found that out. I couldn't believe it.
He was also, more interestingly for me, he was the narrator of all the What to Do in the Nuclear War fallout videos I was shown at school.
Was he?
Yeah.
Protect and Survive ones.
and you'll be having to shit in a bucket and keep that bucket in the other room and take your... No, seriously, we had to watch... I'm older than you guys. We had to sit and watch those at school, and that was Patrick Allen.
I'm glad they didn't put that in Tugs. I'd have been mortified.
The nuclear warning episode. Yeah.
Oh, God.
We've got to tug these old US Navy ships out to this atoll for some testing.
Why is my hair falling out? Said the tugboat.
So plot-wise, the film basically revolves around a group of mercenaries. They are tasked by a businessman with rescuing a former president of an African republic that has been kidnapped and held by his political rivals. Richard Burton plays Colonel Faulkner, and he basically organizes this rescue mission with old comrades in arms.
Yep.
A lot of them ex-British military, ex-South African military, double hard bastards. Basically, they get double crossed, and the mission gets scrubbed, but they aren't told it's been scrubbed, and they are left on an African runway in the middle of nowhere, simply holding their duty free, waiting and wondering what the hell they're going to do next.
And then that's where the main action ramps from there, doesn't it?
And then absolute bloody havoc kicks off from there.
It does. Richard Harris tries to instill a civil war.
Yep. Why don't we just simply start a civil war, Alan? Why?
I'll give it to you practically, and I'll give it to you emotionally if I have to. Or the other way around, he says. Yeah.
Before all that, they have this absolutely amazing training sequence where Sandy absolutely beasts them, doesn't he?
Oh, God. Oh. Sandy's character in that, like, that bit where he shouts, right then, let's try for our first fucking heart attack, shall we? And he gets all these, like, mid-40s veterans to, like, run around and throw themselves on the floor.
Yeah.
And, you know, probably the best training montage of any, like, military film you'll see, I think, really.
And Richard Burton is sweating out every single drink he's ever had in his life in them sequences.
Yeah, it's that scene's single-handedly, like, cleaning up Burton and Harris at that point.
You know, this is where you get to know the crew a little bit better. So you get to know Whitty and Tosh and, you know, all the rest of them. It is an ensemble, but it's more directed at Harris, Moore and Burton. You still get a lot of character development with Whitty and Sandy and that. And these are actual people. They've got hopes and dreams. They've got actual character arc, which is really nice for a film like this because it could have just done away with any of that and just had the main stars. They're more beloved in a way because they're such small parts of the film. Yeah, it links you
to the character quite well, especially that scene that precedes it where they're being recruited and they're all like in that pokey little flat. Someone's hanging around cups of tea. You know, they're all being interviewed, and you know that's when you first meet.
I just like killing, sir.
Yeah, you know, what do best.
What do best.
I'm a plumber now. It don't really fit me.
The beautiful scene where Burton goes to interview Jack Watson in his garden. Well, the fucking rose bush is barred, my French coming on and whipping into shape nicely. That's just a great scene.
It is.
And again, I don't want to be the geek who's read the book, but virtually that's in the book.
Please
the
do.
book, there's no beasting, there's no running around. They're accepting the fact they're older. They're in for Africa for a lot longer. There's a whole romantic subplot. Both Sean Finn and the other Jeremy officer have women in town. There's one's called Gabrielle, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of make the point of saying, we don't need to do running around. We're not going to be doing that. We're going in after 2 hours, come back. Just it's as long as the men can shoot, hold their rifle. So that's an interesting thing they must have developed for, I think, that reason of giving people some character development and some investing some emotion behind it. And I think, you know, you took apart the Battle of the Bulge film twice. A longer running time, but you have much less investiture. Is that the right word? In the characters, because you don't.
Yeah, it's
care.
just good writing, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, you care about Jock, you care about Tosh, you care about Whitty and Gennaro and all those guys, even though they only have 2 or 3 lines each. It works. It just works.
So, Paul, you having read the book and know quite well, does the book begin with that whole mob subplot, the beginning bit with Sean Flynn?
Except it's Janders, not Sean. The mob thing is all in there. It's Janders. The much more of the book is about the actual simply mechanics of how you set up an operation in a foreign country. They decide to, for example, when we get to Kit later in the book, they use Russian weapons, and there's some reason why if they get killed, they'll think it's something mounted from Soviet-controlled country, not British.
Right.
And they talk much more about how they get the weapons there.
Whereas in the film, they're all using SLRs and wearing British Army cap badges.
Yeah, setting up of how they do all that, which the movie just skips.
Well, I can imagine that wouldn't be very interesting for the the average moviegoer, but we'd find that interesting. Obviously, that sounds really fascinating.
The Dogs of War, by contrast, has half an hour of action at the end, if not even 20 minutes, and the whole middle part of the movie is just signing contracts, hiding Uzis inside oil drums in Dogs of War. Yeah, but the Wild Geese, the film doesn't do any explanation of how they get all these people, because they explain at the beginning that Richard Burton shouldn't even be in the country. So how do you get mercenaries? How do you get them? How did they go to Africa? What did they have to have jabs? Did they, the book covers all that. The book covers the minutiae of how you set up a military operation or coup. It's a coup, isn't it? Effectively.
Because me and Matt were saying as well, you mentioned the Russian firearms in the book. Roger Moore, Sean Finn, kills an East German officer, right? And I'm thinking, well, hang on. If the East Germans managed to pin this back to a British, ex-British serviceman, it could trigger World War III.
Which you would think they would do, given all of the dead mercenaries wearing British Army cap badges.
Which again, the book does all cover that. The book does all go into detail explaining East Germany's relationship and South Africa's influence and so on. So
it's those little inclusions that I thought they're probably like holdovers from the book, but they aren't being explained here. But they make nice little things to notice when you watch, I think.
Yeah.
You go, oh, there's an East German Air Force officer. Oh, there's a Cuban military advisor, and make the film a more enjoyable watch, I think, especially for geeks like us, I suppose.
Not all of them make it back, do they? Which is it's a bit of a shame.
No, well, like Paul was saying there, the only acceptable time to cry is when Rafer gets it. Like, I don't agree with that. I think it's when Sandy gets it. That's when it does it to me. I'm like, I just can't take that. It's just, it just stabs right at the heart. It's just, no, not Sandy.
Except in the book, again, he's an unlikable shit in the book, Sandy. Sandy literally only loves one person. The book says something. I've got it written down here. I had it written down here. Sandy, who had so little love in him that all he had, he reserved for Faulkner. Everybody hates him. He has no rapport with the men. He is just there because he's a hard bastard, but he does love Faulkner. But of course, with Jack Watson playing him, he just, even though he's a hard ass, he's just got that, when he insists on going on the mission, and most of all, I love you. That it's perfect.
You want to see a revolution? Just fucking stop me.
Exactly. It's like little scenes where he's having his gammon and chips in the mess, and they're all going off into town, and he's just like smiling, watching them.
He gives him a little glance, doesn't he?
Yeah, nice little scenes like that, and Jack Watson being the actor he is, he conveys that beautifully.
I've never seen anyone more angrily fire a Sterling than him.
Sandy on a Sterling, my God. You wouldn't want to be anywhere near that, would you? Didn't even need the stock, he point shoots it the whole way through. He's got it center mass.
Because even when Sandy does get shot and he shouts Alan, earlier in the film, Faulkner said, look, when you're not around, you don't have to call me sir, you can call me Alan. And he chooses to say his name with his dying breath. I think it's quite sweet, really, in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's his best mate.
It's tragic. Like that just, I think that has a lot more emotional impact for me than Janders' death.
Yeah.
Although obviously they over-egg the setup of that massively with Emil.
Oh, we have to talk about Emil, don't we now?
With Emil, they're setting up this young lad who's expecting a skiing holiday but doesn't get one because his dad's got to go off and start a civil war in Central Africa. Yeah. Those scenes don't really work for me. No. Harris comes off as a bit too cloying, I think.
It's because we don't care about Emil. It's because Emil's an annoying kid. I think that doesn't help.
That's
Yahoo!
fair. Emil is annoying. Oh, I know. God, that. Oh,
but is he more or less annoying than the kid in Jurassic Park who doesn't jump off the fence? I mean, who then becomes in the Pacific. He then becomes Eugene Sledge, doesn't he? That kid. But they are my two most annoying kids in movies of all time: Emil and the Jurassic Park kid.
I think Emil's got to come out first.
It's Emil.
Yahoo!
Yeah.
Yahoo!
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
God.
Thank you, sir. Hope to meet you later, sir. Emil, can you do that again, please, Emil? Can you actually put some emotion in those shots? Thank you, sir. Oh, just fuck it. Go. Just print it. It's fine. Let's go. Oh, his delivery's awful. I hate it. It takes me out of every scene he's in.
He's quite clearly
And
there
joining
to
us
make.
as our special guest is Paul Spurrier, who played Emil.
Special guest, a plank of wood.
With slightly more emotional range.
Yes. Oh God.
But I mean, I do enjoy Harris's character outside of those scenes, especially, you know, the scenes with Burton. They're great. The scene where they go and rescue Flynn, and he's like, "What are you carrying, Rafer?" And he like pulls out a hand grenade and a stub nose Smith and Wesson. And he's like, "Balance."
Yeah.
It's just
Balances me out.
It's just a great scene where he punches a grenade through the door. Like if that was me, I'd end up like breaking a knuckle, not going through the door, and then be just like stuck with a hand grenade.
Yeah.
But you know, Richard.
Oh, that was
Harris.
thicker than I thought it was going to be, that door.
Ow.
Yeah, right.
I think to Harris, you see, to me, is he's the heart, isn't he? And he's the conscience, I suppose, more than the heart.
Yes.
In that he is getting across to the audience that mercenaries can also have objectivity. They can also be sympathetic. And Faulkner says that. He's like, you know, I don't care whether I'm fighting for the good guys or the bad guys, as long as the check doesn't bounce, kind of thing, you know. And Hardy Kruger wants his farm in South Africa, so he's kind of, you know, when he says, you know, I wonder which one of us is more morally, you know, straight in this. And so to me, Harris is the conscience of it, and therefore that's, I do find his death more moving, because he genuinely has invested himself in bringing Limbani back to his people, whereas most of the 50 men are just there for the paycheck, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
we've all done stuff just for the paycheck, but Harris is also, that's why he gave up Emil's holiday, is because of the principle, not the weight, not the money. Burton is the star, he's the focal point, but Harris is the emotional center of the movie.
Yeah. What about Kruger's death? What do you think about that? Because obviously he has this epiphany where he talks to Limbani, and he says, "You that makes sense to me. You make sense to me.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out what that future can be like." You know, that kind of sentiment. He's adamant that he's going to carry Limbani on his back constantly, and then there's that super alley moment where he does does a reload while he's got a man strapped to his back, and then jogs down a dry riverbed and takes out like 5 or 6 Simbas
with his 60-round magazine.
I mean, Hardy Kruger took the film on because he was a great lover of Africa, and he had written a novel set in Africa 2 years earlier that had geese it was in a German title, but it was referencing geese, and he said there was some kind of fatality when this movie came to him, that it was meant to do it. But he always said afterwards, and Hardy Kruger is still alive, you know, he's 92 now, but he did say that he felt his scenes with Limbani were rushed. There was lots more they filmed, that the journey was there was longer physically, there was more instance on the way in the bush, and also there are more conversations. He felt it all got a bit rushed. And I think from my point of view, his death, it's moving, but I feel he's gone from complete racist bigot to champion of the black race, and it takes 10 minutes. It's too quick.
It's very fast.
Where he's being won over by Limbani's, you know, logic and political ideas.
We're all modern 21st century people who use Twitter. We know that you don't convert people from being an overt racist with one well-polished quote on Twitter.
One snappy quote,
years, and yet within 20 minutes of being cut off from the rest of their unit, they're running through a bush, have a bit of water, and suddenly he's seen the light, and he's it's. I understand that was the important part of it, and that's why the 2 black actors took the film on, because they were going to be given opportunity to get some messages across. But to me, it's too rushed. The whole thing is too rushed. So therefore, I feel that Hardy Kruger, when he buys it, I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a journey before he buys it.
I think you're right.
But it's a testament to both those actors that you get enough from that interaction to know where they were going with it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of nice dialogue in those scenes as well. A lot of nice back and forth anyway. You know, I like the redemption. It was a bit quick, but it was nice to think that, you know, this double-hard, you know, ingrained racist who's killed hundreds of people, I assume, up to this point, he could come out of this mission a changed man, which I thought, actually, that's not a bad message for a 70s movie to make. It's quite a bold message, I think, as well, for the time.
And again, the context of the movie, because you know, apartheid was still the system in South Africa. They filmed it. They all stayed on a resort. African, British all stayed in the same accommodation. They paid union rates. They got permission to do all that. They made a very bold statement of equality about when they made the film, and they had strong African characters with heart, who were intelligent. And as you say, in the 70s, that's not necessarily how Africa was portrayed in your average movie. There was a lot of progressiveness for that movie, really.
Yeah, it's progressive.
Its clunky way of explaining it. The dialogue is a bit, but actually for its time, it was really well written.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of films there's not a lot of blockbuster films attempting to do anything like that really at that time.
I mean, I think it's not my show. I think we should now address Kenneth Griffith's homosexual character, because I find that fascinating, because it's both progressive and also completely cliche at the same time. It is somehow because he's kind of a Larry Grayson camp figure.
Yes, he does have that 70s gay shtick.
Except his being gay is not central to the plot. If you look at other movies that featured homosexuality in the 70s, the being homosexual part of it was what drove the plot. His being homosexual is accidental to the plot, and he is a kick-ass hero who goes down in a stream of machete blade. And so he is a cliche, but he's a noble, strong character who is an equal of his men around us. So it's a strange, paradoxical, as I say, progressive and yet at the same time cliche.
It's just who he is. Yeah.
None of the other characters are judgmental about about it. And he has a laugh with them. He's like, who are you sending your will to? A lovely proctologist. And he's like, what's that? He's like, it's a bum doctor, darling. And he's like,
chubby cheeks.
I'm sure younger people watching it might be offended by that portrayal, but I think it was quite a brave choice. It's interesting. It's of its time, but I don't think we can dismiss it as just say, oh, they got it all wrong there. I think it was trying to do the right thing.
He's one of my favorite characters in it. I love Whitty in it.
Yeah, he's one of mine too.
Because he provides some much needed comic relief parts. He's very important to the plot anyway, because without him, they can't look after Limbani when they're on the move, because he's the medic.
Exactly.
He's very sincere in his acting as well. When some lads are injured, he has this look that he gives Faulkner, and he's like, "Oh, these lads aren't going to make it," sort of thing. He cares, and then when he does go down in a blaze of glory, he goes out fighting like an absolute champ.
2 Uzi mags and a knife fight.
Yeah, exactly. He could have reloaded, I think, in the time that bloke took to saunter over to him.
Maybe he'd run out, Robbie. They only expected to be there for 4 hours, and no buggers wearing ammo pouches.
They're not, are they? No, maybe he only took 2 mags with him. Bless him. Yeah.
Like, I think Faulkner lands, and he's wearing basically just a smock and a belt. That's it.
Have you noticed though? The interesting thing is, I'm pointing at a plot hole. They're crossing back over the river. It's either a different river or they've already crossed, because they cross from right to left over the bridge, right? The dry bridge where the plane comes.
Yeah, they do.
But when Burton and they leave, they're crossing from left to right, so they're going the wrong way across the river. Every time I watch it, it bugs me.
They're trying to fool the Simbas there, Paul. I think
maybe because in Lawrence of Arabia, David Lean always had the action going from left to right, didn't he? That was a conscious decision to do that. But I've seen the dry river. You can't see which way the river's flowing, but they're unable to cross from the right hand bank to the left hand bank. But later on, they're on the left hand bank and they're getting to the right hand bank. So it just doesn't make sense.
Maybe that was a conscious decision by the director to impart some confusion.
It could be that. Let's talk about the execution of the plan. When the Force lands by parachute, which, by the way, that's free fall, is just one of the most amazing scenes. We'll talk about our favorite scenes, I guess, later on. But anyway, then Burton's unit goes off to the barracks, blah blah blah, crossbow, cut, in, rescue, gas, go, escape. Roger Moore does the airfield grenade, blah 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 blah. They're acting like absolute perfect precision, everything's. And then once they get to the bridge, they all become idiots on their first day on the parade for a while, because when
across the bridge.
Yeah, see, that bit gets on my tits, right? Because Richard Harris shouts from the safe side of the bridge. He shouts, "There's not time. because the aircraft will be back, right? And I timed it last time I watched it, because that's when Richard Burton does that, looks at Whitty, and there's two guys who aren't going to make it. Who's going to do it? I'm going to, yeah. Like 3 minutes elapse at this point. There's plenty of time to duck down the riverbank, cross over the dry creek, get back and get in the truck with Rafer and Jack Watson and all that, and they go off.
That plane's at this point radioed back their location.
Yeah.
Because that's the last vehicle. There's a convoy of what? There's like 3 RLs. There's a Land Rover, or is it a Land Cruiser?
A couple
or something?
of snatches.
Yeah.
And that's the last vehicle, isn't it? And in it is your commanding officer, your medic, your objective, and you at the back. You put that in the middle of the convoy, surely, don't you? Don't you?
You would, yeah, you would. Yeah.
So why is that at the back and gets cut off?
Because it's the 3 of the main characters in a Jeep, and they've got wearing plot armor.
It's Burton and Cruz. There's 2 of the 4 officers. The medic, the objective, are in the vehicle at the back that gets cut off. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm saying that as a huge fan of the movie. That bit, every time I have to overcome this hurdle of why didn't they just get in the middle of the it just makes no sense.
Why didn't they push the truck that broke down with the
truck.
Land Rover? Oh no, hang on, lads. We need to wait for this plane to go over. Hang on. Oh God, no, it's strafing us. Oh
It's
no.
plot holes,
what a shame.
Plot holes big enough you can drive an RL through, isn't it?
I love the film to bits, but that bit there, the whole river bit, just crossing the river twice the same direction and being isolated. And also, if we're on that subject, because Rafer's it with the map, and we've still got another 2 hours to go, right? They talk about 2 hours to go, and yet somehow, though they've been driving, they all meet up down the riverbank. How fucking far have Burton and Kruger walked through the bush?
I suppose if you got Simbas on your tail, you're going to move quick, aren't you?
Maybe,
Possibly.
Who knows?
So on that bombshell, should we move into the alley tally?
Yes, let's
go.
Plenty to talk about there. You have a complete plethora of small arms. Everything from Mark 1 Brens to SIG P210s, Browning high powers, Uzis, Madsen M50s.
Again, I'm older than you guys, and when I used to watch that movie back in the day, we had no means of looking shit up and going on the internet and looking at stuff and free. You had to just kind of look and you'd go, "What was that thing?" And the Score D conversations was, of course, Tosh's cut down, shortened SLR, but you didn't ever see it long enough on screen to get an idea of what the hell it was. And it was always the topic of conversation. What the hell is he carrying there? And I've now, of course, with the Internet Movie Weapons Database, you can look it up and go, all right, it's a custom L1A1 SLR with a 40-round mag, blah, 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 that Ian Yule's carrying.
L4 Bren mag.
Yeah, 40-round mag. So, but that was the thing that I mean, for 20 years of my life, I didn't know what that weapon was because you never got a good enough shot of it. And every time you watch it, you try and get that. I still can't see what it is. So that is my pick of the kit because it took me so long to work out what the hell it was.
That's a great choice because, I mean, even though we have the internet now and we can find out what it is, it's still one of those guns where you go, damn, that's cool. What the hell's that? When you watch it for the first time. And, it's not just the gun either. It's got an OEG collimator sight, which is a very early sort of like optic, red dot optic that basically tricks the brain into superimposing a red dot. It's not an optic per se. It's just a light tube that tricks your brain into superimposing a red dot over what you're looking at. For years, I think everyone assumed it was some sort of prototype from South Africa, like one of their files cut down. But apparently not. Apparently it came from a UK armory.
I want to know what your choices are because you're the weapons guys. So what's your choice, Matt?
Well, I mean, obviously my choice would also be the cut down SLR, but there's so much to talk about in this film. Like the beginning scene with Roger Moore where he pulls out that SIG P210, you just know the rest of the film's going to be good from there because how often do you see a SIG P210? You just don't. And that's a very, very, very cool pistol to have. It's not all the PPK cool, but it's pretty cool. And it's a definite stylish choice. It's an elegant gun. But yeah, you've got all kinds of really, really alley kit in there. You've got that Vickers that pops up that you don't, where the hell did they get that from? There's a couple of honorable mentions. Got to give a shout out to the Mark 1 Bren.
Yes. Yeah.
That makes a few. It's got the drum sight. It's the original, the OG. It's in 303. Everyone else is operating firearms in 762 NATO, and there's just a random 303 Bren. So that must have been an ammunition nightmare for them. But I think one of the standout things is the blindy side anti-tank weapon that pops up at the end.
They loaded the mortar round.
Yeah, that they load with a mortar round, which is that's
Give them it with a bazooka.
Yeah. And just that whole like village set piece is just so good.
Right.
You know, you get the Simbas.
Fire.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good. You got Esposito with the Bren and Sandy just like, yeah, we're waiting until like they're right on us. Harris is on the Vickers at the edge of the airstrip, just absolutely mowing down the finest soldiers this African Republic has to offer. He kills about 50, 60 because I think there's a kill count video out there on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, right, yeah.
And ironically, Harris gets the most kills out of anyone in the whole film with the Vickers.
Mows him down, doesn't he? Gives him a belt full.
What about you, Robbie?
Well, loads, really. You could go on forever. But I love the DPM smocks and the DPM fatigues they wear with 37 pattern webbing. I quite like that. I think that's quite alley.
And DMs.
The DMs, yeah. I really like Hardy Kruger's crossbow. I think it's great.
Which would make a good beer name, wouldn't it? Hardy Kruger's crossbow. It's like a 7% strength IPA, isn't it? I'd drink that. If you saw that in a shop, you'd buy Hardy Kruger's crossbow.
Indie brewery around making that. There's got to be just a couple of lads like going, what can we call this new beer? Well, I watched Wild Geese last night. What about Hardy Kruger's crossbow?
Only the best mercenaries drink Hardy Kruger's crossbow. I love the way it's set up. You know, they go, we need to kill a man silent. And he goes, I know something that I can use. Crossbow, kill a man at 300 yards, go straight through a man.
And they attach poison to it because it'll go straight through a man.
And also, interestingly, how they don't solve that problem till they get to Africa.
No.
Rafer's the planner. He's got the map, and they go, oh shit, we got to get rid of those guards, haven't we? What if Hardy Kruger hadn't come up with a crossbow?
Yeah.
They'd already got to Africa by then. Surely that was central to the whole mission.
Yeah.
To me, that's a sort that one out in London before you get on the plane one. You know, it's
maybe that's something that can only be solved in Africa. Paul.
Possibly.
Maybe.
It's like we need an African problem solver for this
You
one.
had to get the crossbow from Durban, so possibly.
Yeah, but that is definitely in Africa. They have that conversation. They're already there. They've got the plan. And I mean, I'm surprised they didn't actually get to the edge of the fence. Go, oh shit! How we said we were going to get rid of those guards. How are we going to do it? Oh shit! You know.
They could have used Roger Moore's silenced pistol, couldn't they? Push comes to a shove.
Yeah, that's alley kit on its own. That's a suppressed Walther P38 with a cut down barrel. Very nice.
And the Simbas as well. They're quite alley with their Denisons. And the parafouls they've got. Peak at wall to wall alley, isn't it? It's the alley film.
It is. It's just, there's just so much in there. I mean, that film could have been sponsored by IWI, the guys that make the Uzi. Like, there's so many shots of them just like looking into the distance, holding an Uzi.
The promotional shots.
For all the effort they put into some really cool weapons, no weapons training.
No.
Burton has to look at it all the time. He's just, you know.
The good part about that is obviously, I think the key characters know what they're doing, but then some of the lads in the background are a bit questionable.
A bit.
And you know, just a little.
Definitely some lads that are the wrong side of 40 in that group, aren't there?
Sandy's weapons handling, while looks a little bit janky because he isn't using the stock and he's sort of like gripping that stelling for dear life.
Yeah,
that's that center mass hold where he's got it in his eye line but isn't actually like looking over the sides is a recognized method of point shooting, snap shooting.
Yeah, and you would know because you wrote the book on the Sterling. Available, just about may be available in time for Christmas, folks. We don't know.
It's out. It's out now. All available.
Does it have a stormtrooper chapter?
I do mention that, and my theory on stormtroopers and their terrible accuracy is the fact that they never use the stock.
Okay,
that's why they can't hit anyone.
At Historical Firearms, if you want to purchase a copy from the author.
It's not a plug if there's context.
No, exactly. Yeah.
No.
There's at least 3 Sterlings.
We're talking about the weapons training. I think for me, it's a good time to mention what is often the stick people use to beat the Wild Geese with is the fact all the actors are too old. And I don't think that's a fair argument because they're not pretending they're not. The point is they are ex guys. They're not meant to be running around for they're not meant to be going there for 3 weeks. It's not an
4
extended
hours.
tour. It's 4 hours on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think of the same year, 1978, so that's Force 10 from Navarone. So Robert Shaw, 48, Edward Fox was 40 something rather. That's different because they're meant to be frontline soldiers in the war. So to me, James Coburn, Cross of Iron, was like 48, 49, playing a sergeant in the German army in the Eastern Front. That to me is when you can genuinely criticize actors being too old. But in the Wild Geese, that's read the book again. The point is they're not pretending they're 20 years old. That's not why they're there. They're there because they know what they can do. They are all reliable. That's the thing. The movie and the movie less than the book. But the movie hints that Falker needs to have 50 guys who he can absolutely depend on. That they know what to do. They know how to fire their weapons. They know what they're doing. They're not going to run away at the first sense of danger. But yeah, sure, they're going to be 40-something, 50-something. So I know a couple of guys around in my neck of the woods who are in that age group who still do security work in different countries and so on. And they're not going there because they run fast. They go there to oversee and provide expertise based on their years. So I find that criticism of the Wild Geese invalid. I don't think it's
I totally agree there.
Entirely irrelevant. And look what they do. They don't have to cover much distance. The skydive, presumably they're all jump qualified. There's nothing special for it. They're all there. They've got to move a couple of miles over a couple of hours. What's the beef about them being a bit older? It doesn't make a difference at all. They're there for their skills, and the way they execute. We're going back to plot again. The way they execute the airfield takeover and the barrack room is perfect. I mean, it's
great.
It's about the best demonstration on film of a set piece that you've trained, isn't it? It goes absolutely like clockwork.
Do you think the Argentines watched that and used it as inspiration for the invasion of the Falklands? Attack on the barracks?
Possibly. They could have had some silent Sterlings, couldn't they, for those lads in the towers?
That would have been a great inclusion. Some awesome Mac 10s. There is a Mac 10 at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, there is. The
one of
mobsters.
the mafia guys. Is it?
Yeah, exactly. One of the hitmen.
Yeah.
Mac 10 with a suppressor on it. That would have been very alley.
Talking of those mafia guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you reckon they're the actors who came along for roles as the mercenaries? But no, you you're not quite. You really do look shit. Some of these other guys, they look a bit shit. Ronald Fraser's pushing it, but you really do look. So, but we'll give you the secondary role of mafia guy.
You can be a fat hitman.
You could be a fat
number 3
who gets killed by a grenade.
When we were doing our live tweet of this last night, someone commented that the grenade didn't kill enough of them. I was like, no, I think getting 3 out of 10, like it's 6 or 7, was pretty good. That's It's not a film that sort of over-eggs the capabilities of a hand grenade, I suppose. No, but I do love that scene where I'm just going to go back to where Rafer punches through the door and just like drops a grenade through. That's just such a good scene.
He drops it in such an odd way as well. He's just like such an open,
opens his hand, doesn't he? And just like drops it. It's so good.
And yet their door's miraculously not even touched by the explosion, which is incredible for a grenade.
That just raises questions about just how strong a punch Richard Harris could muster, to get through a door that can withstand a hand grenade.
Yeah, but I think 1970s bed sits above dodgy casino doors. I don't think that's going to be your IKEA 15 quid, MFI 15 quid doors you get.
So that's definitely an MDF door.
The ones with the kind of zigzaggy cardboard in the middle. That's what those doors are.
So I suppose we should move on to favourite scenes.
Yeah, we should.
And discuss some of our favourite bits. So as you're the guest, Paul, would you like to kick off?
Well, I mean, 2, but I mean, if I can just go for 1, it just has to be the running for the aircraft scene at the end, which is just from about the moment Richard Harris runs with the Vickers to the Richard Burton turning to Roger Moore and saying, "I killed Rafer." I don't think there's a wasted second in that sequence. I don't know how long that bit is. Let's say it's 7 or 8 minutes. That and even the blood spurt that comes up and hits the lens when Richard Harris gets killed. That is a really, really well filmed, beautifully planned, beautifully shot, beautifully tense sequence that I think elevates that film to something really special.
Totally agree. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's the payoff to all that the building of relationships, you know, the narrative where it's leading to. And you're right, it is shot really nicely. I mean, the whole film's shot really, really nicely.
Yeah.
In terms of cinematography, you know, you get that sort of feeling of moving through brush and jungle. It, you know, has that kinetic pace to it during the firefight scenes. The set piece battle through the village is really great. You know, you get a sense of scale, which adds to the climax of the film. It's Sandy's death. Then Rafer is shot by Richard Burton, and you know just that scene where he comes back to the cockpit and he just says, I shot Rafer.
Yeah.
I shot Genders. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a great choice. What about you, Robbie?
When they're clearing the airport, I like that bit a lot. You've got Sandy and the rest of the lads. They're like they uncover all the Simbas having their lunch in that cafeteria, little bar, and then they all just open up on them. I think it's great. You know, it's just unashamedly action. The bits where Roger Moore's just being James Bond, shooting everyone with a silenced pistol, that's really good as well.
He's like sat there smoking a cigar, and like someone turns around the corner, he's like, just drops him. Yeah.
I just love movies where Roger Moore isn't in a Bond film, but he's having to be Bond because it's expected of him.
Yeah, there's a few of those, isn't there?
Well, if you read Roger Moore's book autobiography, and if you look at the documentaries as well, he was explaining that he felt overawed by having to act against Richard Burton and Richard Harris and Shona and Carney. So he thought, I'll do my shtick, which my shtick is the kind of the raised eyebrow kind of quip. Bond. So that was his defense against. He can't outact them, so he can
like
kind
a
of
coping mechanism.
Them.
Right.
So that's what he did, and so I can imagine, because he was the one that was the best friend with Ewan Lloyd, the producer. That I reckon he was the one who kind of steered the way those scenes went and said, "Look, don't give me the heavy dialogue, don't give me the exposition, give me the quips and give me the kind of the quirky kind of kills, and I'll make that work for you."
Yeah.
And let the others do the heavy lifting, if you like.
I think it's needed, though, isn't it? His character's definitely needed. I mean, he is the perfect foil for the more serious Harris and Burton characters.
I love it when he makes that lad eat the bag of cocaine. It's just so funny to me. When he's just going, oh, please, no. You know, that's what she said.
Don't think about a stomach pump. There was strychnine in there. Like, wow,
now eat.
That's quite a sick way to plan to kill someone, isn't it?
Yeah.
For Roger Moore's kind of jokiness in the film, he's planned that. He hasn't thrown that together. He's saying, I want to get that guy, right? How can I do it? I'll put the cocaine, I'll make him eat it, and that's pretty high level bastardry, that is.
Bond wouldn't do that, though.
Oh, Bond, good lord.
That book's your theory on that one, Robbie. Like, Bond would not force someone to eat a lot of coke.
Bond would sleep with the drug dealer, wouldn't he? And convert him to the cause.
Yeah. Go on, Matt. What's your favourite?
Oh, it's very difficult. Like, I mean, those are two great picks, and there's a lot of standout scenes in the actual, the film. I really enjoy the set piece of them moving through the village. I think that's a really great scene. They're these retired, very well trained former soldiers. They're experts, they're mercenaries, and although we get glimpses of them in action like throughout the film, obviously we're following more Burton and the rest of them, but that final sequence we get more of the rest of the company. So you have like Ian Newell on the blindy side and the Bren. You've got Esposito, you've got Sandy holding fire until you can see the whites of their eyes like the very last moment, and you get that sort of like feel that these are like professionals, they are hardened professionals, and you see them bounding, you see them laying down fire, you see them moving the Vickers gun around to where it's best. It's professional sort of like soldiering vibe that is like created by that scene, and I think that pays off the establishment of all of these characters. As you were saying earlier, Paul, on the bridge, they're all kind of like 10 minutes of not knowing what the hell they're doing, just sort of like headless chickens on the bridge, which doesn't really befit the vibe and the essence of what these men are. They're professional, former soldiers, mercenaries. They would have instantly known what to do on that bridge. And that bridge is also an honorable mention. That scene with the plane, that's really cool.
It is good. Well done.
Yeah, I like
It's
it.
a great little sequence.
And I think to add to what you said about the village, I think is what makes that scene so good is it's grounded in what these men could actually achieve. It doesn't go into kind of Expendables territory where you know your 6 heroes are going to come out of it by standing there in Schwarzenegger style, Willis, Stallone, and just kill. They are completely outnumbered. They are running low of ammo, and it shows you in that predicament. They're acting professionally, but they're acting professionally in a situation that is not going to get. They're not all going to get out of it, and they know that. They absolutely, and you as the audience know they're not all going to make it. They're doing everything they can to limit the deaths, and they're doing it to save those to get the aircraft, but you know it's not going to end well. And that's why, although it's kind of got that slight fantasy element to it, there's this grounding in what men can actually achieve with weaponry. No weapon achieves anything in that movie that can't actually be achieved by a weapon, I would kind of argue, you know?
Very true. That's a good point to jump off on, to mention the comparisons that people often make of it with Expendables and that kind of film. Like, people describe it as sort of like a proto Expendables. I really don't agree with that. Like, the Expendables are a comic book-esque sort of like...
Yeah.
They don't exude that, that hardened professional soldier vibe at any point in any of those films, for me.
Because in Expendables, they're all playing like characters they've played before. So Stallone's playing Rambo. Arnie's being Terminator. Bruce Willis is being John McClane in Die Hard, and they reference it like a lot. That's the whole point of them films, I think. It's like, look, we were in 80s action films, but
yeah, it's a whole shtick, and
Wild Geese is more self-aware in the fact.
The Expendables are great films, but they're in a sense they're complete fantasy escapism, shoot 'em up, silly, unrealistic, popcorn, switch brain off film. And Wild Geese has an element of that. It's considered, I think, as a throwaway film, but actually, as we go back to the serious points it makes about racism and African inequality and stuff, and what it is grounded in a kind of realistic sense that I think. Perhaps that's why it's a B movie. That's why it didn't become an A movie, because it didn't go into kind of Bond silliness. The mission is not successful. They don't come out with their money. Limbani is not put back in. He's dead. It's a failure. It's a failure. And most of the people die. So that realism. Whereas if it was a blockbuster, you never go into a Bond film thinking Bond is going to die at the end of it, do you?
No, you don't. No.
Very true.
So I think that's what makes Wild Geese a little bit different, is that if you haven't, I can't imagine there are people who haven't ever seen it before, but if you haven't seen it before, you are going to be surprised at the way the plot developed, because if you've come at it from a 21st century action hero perspective, the one person's going to die. So there's always the noble death of one person or wounded, but you don't expect to see most of the cast get wiped out.
That's very true. It does book that trend of the stereotype of there just being one noble death. Clearly, it's not a film that's pulling any punches. It's hitting hard where it can on, as you mentioned, African inequality, the foibles of capitalism with Stuart Granger's character.
Yeah,
and I think the writing of the film is such that you get a feel for these characters, and that they're willing to die for the mission, because that's what they've signed up for. And they're professional soldiers. So you don't have this stupid comic book sort of made for the video game generation, as I hate that phrase, but that's one of the
what you mean.
Things about Expendables that I hate, where there is no real oomph to the plot. There's no real narrative.
There's no
Taken
risk
as well. Those kind of films where it's just a straight bolt sort of like plot with no real oomph or essence or body to it. Whereas with Wild Geese, you become attached to characters that you wouldn't expect to become attached to in a film if they made it now. If they made a remake of Wild Geese now, which God forbid they ever do, today's Hollywood blockbuster screenwriters wouldn't be able to create the sort of essence that Wild Geese has.
They have talked about remaking it. There's lots of forums where you see people's ideal cast for remakes, and in fact, it actually got as far as I think it's
great pub chat though, isn't it? Working out who you'd have in it.
Yeah, because Roger Moore was talking about coming back as the Stuart Granger character.
Yeah, that would
That
have
was
been
in
good.
one car about 10 years ago or so, which would have been an interesting twist potentially. But I don't think you can improve on it. It is what it
have to go
is.
and save President Limbani, please.
It is what it is, that movie, and it's got, it's not perfect by any means. There's 3 Wilhelm screams: one on the bridge, one when the Simba after the river that Burton shoots in the throat, and the third one I think in the village. So there's three of them.
Yeah, he has that second one has that very dramatic like death fall, doesn't he? He's like, ah! It's like, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's. I mean, the other amazing scene, by the way, is the skydive and the music for that, which is not the same theme they run through the film. That's just a great scene.
It's like a circus theme. It's like a circus parade. Yeah.
I mean, as I said at the beginning, I've seen it 50 or 60 times, and I watch it twice a year at least. I never don't enjoy it. I always love it. I get niggled by little bits in it, but it just does what a movie should do. It takes you on a journey, and it's when it's like having a favorite song. You sing along with it now. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk about it, because I just love it.
Well, we knew you would offer something that would be, give us a little bit more insight, because we know you've probably got it on like 6 different formats, and
I've had it video, DVD, Blu-ray. So it's only the 3 for that one. Yeah.
Okay. And the book, don't forget. So 4.
And the book.
Technically.
Yeah.
We just love hearing about other people's experiences with a movie, because obviously, it's me and Matt every week, and we don't have any other people sort of to sound ideas off on or anything like that. So it's nice to have a third input. I
think it's also a little bit slightly a generational thing as well. It's it's like because of my age, Roger Moore is my Bond. It doesn't mean he's the best Bond, but he's the Bond I went and saw at the cinema. So I don't like too much Roger Moore bashing, because that was where I saw that. I saw the Sean
I don't
Connery
think there's anything to bash
TV.
Roger Moore about in this film at all.
No, he really comes off really well in this movie.
I think he's great in this film.
Yeah, no, he's thoroughly believable as let's be honest, as a more realistic character than Bond, isn't he? You get the impression he is much more ruthless in this, and he is, and the 30,000 quid he's going to get for it, which when you're watching it now doesn't sound like that much to risk your money for. Although this year with COVID, I'd risk my ass for 30,000 quid. But yeah,
I'll do it tomorrow.
What other things about the film that niggle you, that annoy you? You go, that just, they could have improved on that, or just, plot holes or something, because it's not perfect.
For me, it's the lack of suppressed Sterlings. There should be some L34A1s or Mark 6s in there.
Should be.
I think that would have added to the alley tally in a significant way for me.
I think for me, possibly, I wish there was some like tanks in it or some armored cars. They could have stolen a APC or something to help
Could
them
have been
out.
a little ferret in there or something, couldn't there? At the airport, perhaps. Take it out with the blindy side.
I think it might have benefited from like a Daimler Ferret or a Saladin armored car or something. That'd have been really cool.
Yeah, it's just a little something. I think going off what you said earlier, Paul, I think what a good inclusion would have been a little bit more of the sort of back and forth between Kruger and Limbani.
Now I know it's been cut. It'd be nice to see
exactly.
it.
Now that you've mentioned that was cut out, you feel the loss more. Like you feel like it should be in there. There should be a little bit more. And while it does the job, it gets across what they're trying to say in a succinct way. I think they could probably have included a little bit more of that. Maybe 1 or 2 more conversations, just like short bits back and forth. So I think that would have been improved, like the heft of the film on that side.
And you might have felt a bit more. I'm not saying Limbani is a MacGuffin character, but when he passes away in the plane, I don't feel much emotion with his death, but I feel loads of emotion for Rafer and loads of emotion for Sandy, but not a lot for Limbani. And I wish, if they'd have said more, if he'd had more to say when he was up for speaking to Kruger, maybe I'd have felt more for his character and his plight a little bit more.
That's a good point, actually, because I'm not moved when he died. I had never thought that. Somehow I don't invest myself in him in the same way. I mean, he was in a shit spot before the movie started. He's already in prison, isn't he? And he's already ill. So it's expected, I suppose, that he's the fragile one.
Yeah, I mean, like when I watched it for the first time, I didn't think, oh yeah, he's going to die.
No, I thought he'd get out.
I did, yeah. And as I said, like you wouldn't think it would be a gunshot wound that would get the guy with the heart condition. He's poor guy's like dragged through half a dozen gun battles, and that's what gets him in the end. He probably would have been safer in the cell if you weren't going to execute him. But
they only get the poor guy a stretcher in the last maybe 5-10 minutes of the movie, and then the rest of the way they're just dragging this poor bloke along. Sorry, that niggles me a bit.
Yeah,
he's so important.
I have another question for you, and it's one that's niggled me. Is right at the beginning when Richard Burton. Now, the first thing is the fact that they must have decided after the film was shot that they were going to have it Concorde as the aircraft it comes in, which is why they dub him saying, because Richard, they said, apart from a very rushed meal on the plane, he obviously said shit or crap or foul. But because they now show Concorde, it can only be British Airways. So they have to change it to a very rushed meal. Watch it again.
Yeah.
You'll notice he dub in. Did you notice that?
No.
You'll notice it now, right? The second, that's one point. The thing is the Barry Foster character, the Van der Valk, the blonde curly-haired guy, the guy who works for Stuart Granger. My question is, who the fuck is he, right? Because he works for a merchant banker. And then when Richard Burton says to him, I can't do this, and there's these two names, and he says Rayford Janders, and Barry Foster goes, yeah, blonde hair, cigarette case glass. Now, Rayford Janders hasn't been a mercenary for 10 years, right? They established that but who is Barry Foster? That out of his brain, he can tell, he knows ex-mercenaries who are 10 years old living in London.
Maybe now this is a theory. This might become your headcanon for this, Paul. Maybe his son goes to school with Emil.
Ooh,
maybe he's Emil's father because he's got the curly hair. Maybe he's. But I understand he's kind of the fixer guy for Stuart, and it's suggesting that big bad businessmen have these kind of shady kind of.
Yeah, he does. He probably does know a little bit too much.
But he knows the two guys Sean Finn. Oh, I know the name of Sean Finn. How do you know these guys? London's a big bloody place. What merchant bankers have in their heads a list of former mercenaries? And also, by the way, just on that subject, the fact that Richard Burton and Richard Harris haven't seen each other for 10 years in a movie and they're suddenly best mates again. Because the book, they've been working on they've been together much more recently, more frequently. I don't understand why they have this 10-year gap and suddenly they're best mates again. They're not, no Christmas cards, no Rayford. Suddenly they're back in again and he wants, after 10 years of no contact, look after my kid for me if I die. That's my little question I have with that movie. It makes no difference to the plot.
One other little thing that I do like about that scene where he lands is he's sat in just before customs, like drinking his duty free.
Underneath a very 70s rabies can kill poster.
He's got like his little paper cup and he's clearly like drinking something from duty free.
When we watched it the other night, I was like, no, that's not a genuine take. That's just Richard Burton drinking. They just happened to be on set.
Yeah, but we'll be with you soon, Mr. Burton. Just, I'll sit here with my paper bag of gin. Yeah.
Did I tell you I narrated War of the Worlds? Yes, you did. Get back to your gin.
No, the question, would you have liked to have seen the sequel with Richard Burton? Because, I mean, the sequel did happen, but he died. If Richard Burton had done it, not Edward Fox, could it have saved itself? Could it have been a decent movie, or was it always destined to be crap?
I think the plot of that one is always going to destine it to be pretty poor. There's none of what makes Wild Geese special in Wild Geese 2, I think.
I've not seen it, so I can't comment. So the
peril isn't there, the danger, the being away. It's in a city in Europe. It's not. It just seems like if it fails, you're going to get arrested. That's how it. As opposed to get a stern talking to.
Yeah, I think Wild Geese 2 for me is much like Die Hard 4 onwards. Just does not exist mentally. So I guess that rounds us out nicely.
I think it does.
For our discussion on the Wild Geese. Thanks so much for joining us, Paul.
I've enjoyed it. I'm sorry I've rabbited too much, but yeah, I love the film.
I never cease to enjoy it. Like you said, Paul, I never cease to find new things or enjoy the bits that I've enjoyed before unashamedly. It's just a good movie.
It entertains. It does the primary purpose of entertaining you.
Merry Christmas to all our listeners. Yeah, we're really grateful to everyone who subscribed, everyone who's given us a review or shared the podcast around. Really means a lot. Happy New Year to everybody as well. And don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, share the pod with all your friends on whatever device you're listening on.
And you can find us on Twitter at Fighting on Film. Thanks again for coming on, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Bye-bye.
Bye.